I'll endeavor to. Hello, YouTube. How are we living tonight? Let's get our live chat on. For those of you that have been around a while, you know how this goes. Q&A. No questions off the table. If you're new around here, welcome to the BryantChambers movement. Our movement exists to help you take command of your life, to live the good life as I believe God has intended for you to live. The beautiful thing about that is when I say it, it's not my definition of good life, it's your definition of good life, helping you understand the knowledge that you need to get to it and removing the obstacles that keep you from it. Camel Smoke says, hey, Brian, what's up, Camel Smokes? Good to have you. Happy Mother's Day, either to you if you are a mother or to your mother if you're not a mother. Either way, let's see, we got Super Megamon Inc. Smiley face. Smiley face back at you, man. Or lady. Don't know if you're a man for sure. So, yeah, we're going to do a quick Q&A tonight. Camel Smoke says thanks. Yeah, with a name like Camel Smokes, there's a couple things I'm going to assume. One, you are over the age of 30, because I can't imagine anybody smoking Camel cigarettes that even knows what a Camel cigarette is under the age of 30. Two, you're probably a dude. But you know, on the internet, you can't make these assumptions anymore. You just can't do it. The internet is full of surprises. Full of surprises. There was when I ran my first online community, my own, right? So I grew up in the world that we now call social media. It used to be what's called online communities, right? This is before Facebook existed, and even before Facebook became accessible to the public. We used to have online communities, and I used to work at a couple of them, and I used to run one for a friend of mine who was one of my mentors. In the music world and in the business world when I was an entertainer. And then I worked with Sony on what's called the PlayStation Underground, worked there for a while. Then I created my own, and I took a lot of friends from all the different communities onto mine. And there was this dude who was on there for years who I thought was a girl because every picture he uploaded of himself was of a girl. So I was like, yes, ma'am, and ma'am. And like after a couple of years, he's like, hey, I'm a dude. I'm like, but every picture you use as your avatar as a girl. I later found out that he was into the girls in those pictures weren't exactly the most savory types, if you get my drift. So he was posting pictures of people he was a fan of, not pictures of himself. So, you know, on the internet. And then like I remember years ago, like 2010 maybe, whenever it was that Mass Effect 2 came out. What was that, 2008, 2000 something? I remember there was an article in the video game world where guys who play video games as alternate characters often pick women. And the reason why, because, you know, if I see a girl in an online video game, I assume it's a girl playing as a girl. I don't come from a world where dudes typically play as women, but I guess one of the practices for a lot of men was if they have to stare at someone's butt for 150 hours while they're playing Warcraft, it might as well be the butt of somebody that looks attractive to them, which I thought was interesting. But I said all that to say, on the internet, you can't make assumptions. You just can't do it. You just can't do it. Alicia Cobus Keys says, hey, Brian. Hey, Alicia, good to see you. Jugal says, hi, Brian. What's up, Jugal? If I mispronounce y'all's names, by the way, please correct me. Camel Smoke says, I quit smoking 2 years ago, LOL, and I'm 25. Camel is just my nickname. Got it. Understood. Understood. I smoked a Camel cigarette once. I liken it to if you could hook up a fire hose to hell and then just take a breath of it. And then your lungs, like, it felt like my lungs, like one puff, by the way, it felt like my lungs melted. And then, like, I died, but then came back to life because I wasn't dead. It was a bad experience, is what I'm saying. And good on you for quitting smoking 2 years ago. Excellent. So, yeah, Moonlight. Hey, Luz, what's going on? Belinda Jennings says, hi, Brian. Hi, Belinda. Good to see you. So, let's get right into the Q&A, y'all. No need to beat around the bush. I'll start by asking you all some questions. One, are you keeping up with the 69 Pillars of Success? Do you even know what that is? Because it's still going. I actually just filmed 5 new pillars today that are going to be going up in the next couple of weeks. once I get them into the system and onto the website. So one, do you know what the 69 Pillars of Success is, the free program that I run? Have you been keeping up with the videos? Have you been watching them? Two, have you heard of the 52 book challenge? Because we just launched that, another free program I have where I'm helping people read more books and read really good books, not just like fantasy books or fun type stuff. Like this is really focused on personal and professional development type books. Not to say that some of the books won't be fun to read, or that some of them, not to say that all of them will be nonfiction. That's my preference. But some of the books actually probably will be fiction, believe it or not, that we have on the list, just because there's things I think you can learn from it. I'm actually even playing with the idea of having books and films, right? Films are just a more modern way to tell a story. A book or a tablet was the old way to capture information and share it with people. A movie was really the second coming of that to me. And I think radio first, and then pictures, and then storytelling through movies. And then I think actually the new frontier is video games. I mean, video games have already taken over as the #1 form of entertainment on the planet. And I think that's actually the future, are these interactive stories. Like right now on screen behind you, while I was waiting for my phone to charge to get ready to do this show, I was playing a game called Far Cry 5. In fact, I can actually show you, because I still play video games from time to time when I have a little bit of downtime. Right? So I got Far Cry 5, which is a really interesting story about this religious cult in Montana, I believe, that is basically kidnapping people and forcing them to be a part of their organization, and you get kind of thrust into it as a U.S. Marshal or something along those lines, where 2 marshals go in and your commander gets captured and you're a rookie, and then the mission is to go find your commander that got kidnapped by these people. I think that's the story. But really, these games are never really about the straight up narrative. They're more about the subtle interactions, I believe, that you have throughout the game with different characters in some of the sub stories. Like right now, I'm on my way. I'm leveling my character up because I'm on my way to go help this woman who's a sniper who's pinned down at one of the cult's churches, and she's trying to escape from there. So I'm going to give her some help. To me, that's a form of storytelling. I've actually learned quite a bit from some of the smarter video games that are out there, like The Last of Us, which I don't think I have it readily accessible, but The Last of Us was such a brilliant game and story. And anyone that's known me for the last 5 years or beyond that knows that I think most video game stories are just contrived and really poorly executed, kind of like the new Star Wars films. But The Last of Us captured something that, like when I did the review for it, actually in one of my videos I shot today, I talked about how most of my best videos have very little viewership. Like all my videos that end up going viral or being popular are never my favorite work. And I did a review for that game that was really this intellectual social commentary on how a video game can take these existential questions about what it means to be human and is humanity worth saving, and that the game actually takes you on a journey and the story gives you the answer of the author, right? Because it's not a story, it's not like most modern video games where you make the story happen. You are playing a pre-scripted story that, you know, the question that starts with, is humanity worth saving? Look at the hell we've caused. And then at the end of the game, you get the answer. It's like, or you get one person's answer, which was a really interesting answer. And I think, going back to the original point, I'm playing with having other forms of media in the 52 book challenge, because I feel like we can learn from more than just, you know, paper and ink books. I think we can learn from movies, right? I could teach a 10-hour course on the movie Gladiator about leadership and about how true leadership in its purest form is really love, right? And I could teach for days on that movie. So something I'm toying with. But are you guys keeping up with the 52 book challenge? Have you joined it? Also on the 69 Pillars of Success, is it the one that came out last week, or is it one that drops tomorrow? One of them was the last video that I'm putting in public on YouTube. The rest of them are going to be uploaded on my website, so you have to go sign up on the website. It's free. Go sign up on the website so you can keep up with lessons with pillars 26 through 69. I'm only going to launch them on my website. I'm not going to keep putting them on my YouTube channel. Really to incentivize people to consume the 69 pillars the way it's intended. It's not meant to be binged watched. It's meant to watch one a day for 69, really for 70 days, because there's total, there will be at least 70 videos. It's one a day, and then take it, meditate on it, and then start to apply it to your life. You try to watch all 69 in like 3 days, you're not going to be able to digest it the way that I want you to, the way that I want you to be able to take what I spent an hour talking about or 10 minutes talking about and really just think on that for that day. So the website is set up so that when you join, you get one video a day until it gets through 70 days. Now, for some of you that join the website, you're probably at day 60 and I'm still filming. So you're not quite getting it that way. You're getting it kind of piecemeal. But when it's all said and done, as I'm ramping up how fast I'm recording the videos, so that I can get that done more quickly. So for those that join around now, it'll start to catch up and be the way it's supposed to be. All right, so make sure you're keeping up with that. A3 person says, I haven't played Far Cry since Far Cry 2. I didn't start playing Far Cry till Far Cry 3. So you're doing better than me. I went back and I think I played Far Cry 2. I didn't really like it that much. Joshua says, Me Chambers, what's up, my man? It's been a minute. Good to see you back doing your thing. It's always good to be seen. Good to see you too. Alicia says, I haven't watched your channel in a while, but your video notification popped up, and my gut told me to watch your video. You have a very wise gut. Very smart gut. Because the whole purpose here is to add value to y'all's lives, so good on you. Dancing Cheese Productions says, what do you think is your best video? I don't know that I have a single best. My Last of Us review was one of my better reviews, but that was on an older channel that I had. I still have the channel, but I don't really upload content there anymore. A lot of my live Q&A sessions are really, really good. The Media is Manipulating You was a really powerful video that I think like 600 people watched. I can't think offhand. Some of my, back when I was doing my daily vlogs, some of those were really good too. The one I talked about, the experience of, I think I talked about losing a friend in combat or dealing with civilian life, which is a really powerful one for vets. But you know, my audience was wrapped up in, oh, I want to see the next INFP video. So, you know, the way YouTube works, it's going to show you what it thinks you are going to watch, not necessarily what's quote unquote best. Tristan Joseph says, hey, Bryant, the Trini gun is in the building tonight. Okay. Oh, the Trini guy, the Trinidad guy. Got it. It's like the Trini gun. Camel Smoke says, okay, Bryant, on a scale of 1 to Chris Brown, how mad are you going to be if I tell you I haven't heard of the 69 Pillars of Success? 0. I'm not going to be mad at all. I'm just going to encourage you to go check it out. I'd be curious to know, because it's the first thing people see when they come to my channel. So be curious to know, maybe you haven't been around in a while, or maybe you're like most people who really just consume my Myers-Briggs content. But anybody that's been following me for any length of time knows that usually what I do that a lot of people end up liking is content that I don't really like. So I have to find ways to kind of bridge that gap. It's like what the masses like and what I want to produce very rarely are the same thing. Very rarely. Let's see. Tristan Joseph says, hey, Bryant, quick question. I'm interested in being a combat rescue officer in the U.S. Air Force. Would like to know if you know anyone in that field, and what is your personal opinion about the... So are you talking specifically about becoming a PJ? And yes, I do know people of that line of work, and I think it's awesome if that's what you want to be. Even if that's not right, I think it's awesome that you want to serve, period. Infinite Jurisdiction says, hey, yo, The Rock, what up? Infinite Jurisdiction says, how are you? Love your videos. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Esmeralda says, hello, Bryant. What are your thoughts on ENTJ, INFJ relationships? So I've said it quite a few times across different videos, but I know, and I've said it on a lot of my live calls, but I think it's something that bears repeating because, you know, people hear stuff when they hear it. I do not like using the Myers-Briggs to predict relationship success. I think it's kind of crazy, because if you took two ENTJs, despite what, you know, their magic little horoscope says, because they're extroverted, intuitive, thinker, judges, or even what their cognitive functions say, they're still going to be pretty different people. I attract a lot of ENTJs. I have a lot of ENTJs in my life, and we're all different. We're all unique. You know, we have some tendencies that may be the same, but you have to remember, behavior is not just governed by this cute little four-letter word we call ourselves, right? So for me to try to predict if an ENFJ or ENTJ and an INFJ could it work? Absolutely. Could it be a nightmare? Absolutely. A better judge for relationships is to take the hexacode test, because that's going to measure how honest you are. And all manipulation and Machiavellian tendencies come from people scoring low in that field. So like if you've been in a manipulative relationship, their four-letter code in Myers-Briggs has nothing to do with it, more so than whether or not they're an honest person. Two, do they have a high or a lower level of emotionality? If they're an ENTJ, chances are they're lower in emotionality, right? But again, people are all different. But it's also going to measure agreeableness and flexibility. And I think those are very important in a relationship. You have to have communication and compromise. And I realized that my lighting system here just went out. So we're going to rely on the light of my computer to light my beautiful face. So I'm more concerned with how well does a person communicate. Are they an agreeable person? Are they a flexible person, right? Do they get bent out of shape when they don't get their way? Do they have an emotional maturity? None of those things are things the Myers-Briggs measure. And this is coming from a person who's watched a lot of failed relationships and a person who's been married for almost 16 years, right? So I'm not just talking from reading Myers-Briggs, like I'm talking from experience. My Myers-Briggs type and my wife's Myers-Briggs type has very little to almost nothing to do with why we work so well together. It just isn't. We're both very agreeable people. We're both people that value peace and harmony over being right, or our personal egos, which we don't really have big egos. We don't care, right? And we love each other from a very selfless perspective. So I hate it when people try to use the Myers-Briggs to, oh, I can never date a INF whatever. Like, why? I almost want to tell people, stop using the Myers-Briggs to try to predict relationships. I think it borders on crazy behavior. But the test is called Hexaco, Hexaco. It's an acronym. Or the Big Six. And in fact, if you're in my 52 book challenge, it's book number 2. And so you can read about how the test came to be and what it measures, and you can actually take the test in the book. Very powerful stuff. Let's see. Esmeralda says, what's the test name again, please? Hexaco. So yeah, and I don't say that to be a jerk. I know a lot of you follow me for Myers-Briggs content. That was kind of a happy accident. I made a bunch of Myers-Briggs content because I thought the one thing Myers-Briggs is good at is helping a person who's never taken a personality test start to self-actualize. Like, start to really want to understand themselves, and understanding whether you process information intuitively, or you process it through sensing, or you make decisions based on what we call feeling, not emotions, but everyone makes emotional decisions. I don't care if you're a thinker or a feeler, because emotions are biological, feelings psychological, right? So basing your decisions on internal disposition, or how decisions affect other people, or are you making decisions based on logical outcomes, right? I think those are important things to really start to think about, and it helps us understand how we communicate. Like, knowing that someone is a feeler is valuable for me, because regardless of where they are on a scale of emotional maturity, I know certain things that I'm gonna have to watch myself with when I communicate with them, so that I don't put them on the defensive unintentionally, right? Or make them feel uncomfortable. So I think the Myers-Briggs is good for that type of stuff. But people trying to figure out, I can't ever date a person that has this personality type, that's insane. Like, and it's always because they dated one person who had that type, and that person was crazy, right? If that person took the dark triad test, they probably scored relatively high on psychopathy or being a psychopath. They probably scored really high on Machiavellianism, manipulating other people, and they probably scored pretty high on narcissism. None of those things are measured by the Myers-Briggs. And so we say, well, because this person is a fill in the blank, they must all be like that. And it's like, no, you're dealing with a person who just sucks, regardless of what their Myers-Briggs type is. You know, and the reason why I did Myers-Briggs content was I believe that self-awareness is the foundation of all success and really all happiness. And I think Myers-Briggs is a good entry-level test to start building self-awareness. So I'm not in the camp that thinks Myers-Briggs is complete garbage, because it's based on scientific research. The science has just gotten better in 2018, dating back to the 1930s when a lot of this stuff was starting in the first place. And it's evolved over time into tests like the Hexaco test, which I think is just a way better way to measure, because it's not trying to type you. It's trying to say this is where you are today on these scales. And by the way, you can adjust those scales based on certain activities in your life, right? Like if you struggle with honesty and humility, you don't score well in there, you can start being more honest and more humble. So I'd like to transition into other things for self-awareness other than Myers-Briggs. I get that the Myers-Briggs is insanely popular. And what I didn't realize until I started making the content, like I thought most people didn't really care about Myers-Briggs. And a couple people would watch it and get something good out of it. What I figured out on the internet after the fact was Myers-Briggs is this whole cult. It's like a religion of people that just, their whole life centers around this 4-letter code. It's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Right, and obviously that's the extreme. I don't think everybody is like a cultist, but some people are. Like I've had people rip me a new one for some of the stuff I've said in those videos, and what they don't understand is that I don't agree with everything that is taught in different Myers-Briggs schools of thought. You know, I just kick my truth, and if my truth ain't working for folks, then find someone else's truth. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. Let's see. Esmeralda says, "Thank you for your great insights." Thank you. Brian Rigney says, "Just want to say, love your videos. I've become more self-aware, observant since I looked up types of personality. Not saying that's all I use for info, but it opens up a lot more than I thought." Yeah, absolutely. And I think self-awareness goes even beyond the testing. It's, you know, if you've seen my 69 Pillars of Success series, it's the first thing on my channel. If you go to the channel, you can go through it. It's the first 25 videos of this. It's the first 25 videos of 70. Because if you include the welcome video, it's 70 and not 69. But we talk about other ways to be self-aware, like what are your core values? What what motivates you? What are you? And I have a system that I use to actually teach people what, because so many people ask, how do I know what I'm good at? And for a lot of people, you already have a lot of information to put that puzzle together. You just don't know how to do it. So I have a system that I use to show people how to do it. And all of those things help you with self-awareness. Let's see. You know, because one of the things I hate when I hear it on the internet is like, oh, just follow your passion. I'm like, yeah, but how many people know what their actual passion is? Not everybody does. And some people get it wrong. In fact, the first book we read in the 52-book challenge is Managing Oneself, because the primary thesis of that book is most people think they know what they're good at, and most people are wrong. And so there's methods that we use to really understand what are we actually good at, and what are the core values and the motivations that drive what we're good at. So yeah, definitely other ways to do it. I'm gonna try the Hexaco test since you brought that up. Yeah, matter of fact, let me just make life easy on you guys. Give you a link to it. There you go. That link will take you to the Hexaco test. A3 person says, so does scoring high on the Dark Triad test measure your ability to become a monster? Something Jordan Peterson said is useful in becoming, but choosing not to. I don't understand the end of your question. Something Jordan Peterson said is useful in becoming, but choosing not to become. Rephrase your question, bro. I'm not sure what you're trying to ask me. But yes, it will measure how much of a crappy person you are. I understood that half of the question. Austin Williams says, Mr. Chambers, I have a problem with a guy that I work with. I noticed that he has been led to believe that he is dyslexic when it comes to reading. However, he's an extremely smart in different areas. Okay. I got that much of the problem. Ursula says, thanks to you and Raven, I grew a pair and released my first newsletter for my books. Much love to you both. Excellent. Proud of you, Ursula. Keep killing it. Brian says, thank you. Most welcome, my friend. Austin continues to say, this is also something that I have struggled with. I'm pretty sure he's an ENTJ. Okay? ENTJ probably doesn't have anything to do with the problem. But keep going. I'm happy to help once I understand what the actual problem is. A3 says, trying to think of a way to rephrase it. But so your sentence just doesn't make sense. You said, does scoring high on the dark triad test measure your ability to become a monster? It measures how much of a monster you are, right? Or yes, have the propensity to. But the second half of your sentence says something Jordan Peterson said is useful in becoming, but choosing that, the sentence makes no sense. So just write the question in a sentence or two sentences that helps me understand what Jordan Peterson is actually talking about. Let's see. Infinite Jurisdiction says, we will wait. You guys are slow on the questions tonight, man. Must be tired after Mother's Day celebrations. Usually you guys ask so many questions that I can't keep up. I feel like I'm rocking it tonight. Let's see. How was your day? Amazing. Got to spend it with my wife and kids, and then my wife and kids made a gift for my mother and my grandmother and my aunt, and I drove it to my grandmother's house where they were all hanging out at and gave them all their gifts. Got to see my brother. Haven't seen both of my brothers in weeks. Got to see them, which was awesome. Got to see my uncle. I haven't seen him in weeks. Got to see my cousin. Got to see my mentor. Oh, snap. Hopefully I'm going to be releasing a podcast and a video. My mentor told this story about when his business partner did a business deal with Trump and how Trump tried to screw him, but how my mentor's friend beat Trump in the end. It was a freaking awesome story. I had already heard the story because, you know, my mentor and I talk business all the time. But he was like basically telling his life story of building successful businesses. And then this last story of how his business partner and his best friend, basically Trump tried to screw him on a business deal back in like the 80s. And he ended up getting the last laugh when Trump tried to screw him over. So yeah, hopefully, I don't have video of it. I just have the audio. So I got to figure out how to put it on YouTube so people actually watch it. Like I'll have to put up a picture of Taylor Swift or something to hold people's attention spans that are usually the size of a tsetse fly. All right, so my day was amazing. Infinite Jurisdiction says, give me some advice. Just starting my channel. 37 and just starting to share my creativity. So you're 37 years old and just starting to share your creativity? Advice on how to build it up. My advice is don't try to build it up. Just make awesome content that you and other people want to be a part of. And then the building will happen on its own. That's something almost all of the entertainers I coach in my marketing, in my social media program, is I have to like unwire their brain from YouTube has created this monster of subscribers and building a followership. Like, dude, if you're awesome, you don't worry about it. Seriously. If you just make awesome shite, people are going to find it. Right? It's not about SEO tricks. I mean, all that stuff's important, right? You got to know those things. But if you think SEO is going to make somebody that sucks win, it's not going to happen. In fact, it's going to make someone that sucks lose because they're going to be good at getting discovered, and then people are going to discover that they suck, and then they're going to move on, right? So just hone your craft, man. Be good at what you do. Make awesome stuff that people actually want to watch or listen to. And it sounds like such obvious advice, but the problem is people overestimate how good their stuff is. And they won't say that. They'll humbly say, well, I don't think my stuff's that great. But you behave like you think your stuff's that great, right? Because you'll make content, not you, but people will make content for a month and then, well, no one's watching my stuff because your stuff sucks. Well, I didn't say it was that great. Well, then you're telling yourself why no one's watching it. Go make amazing stuff. Go make amazing stuff and then tell people about it. Like that's how I love one of the guys that was coaching me. It was a Stanford lecture at Stanford that I was listening in on, and he was like, he's one of the dudes that built one of the biggest accelerators in the world. And he said, basically, if anyone tells you they have growth hacks, he's like, I wish growth hack on the internet, when people would type it, that spell check would just change growth hack to bullshit. Because that's what all that stuff is, man. You don't need a growth hack. You need to be awesome. All right. Ursula says, oh, hell no, not Taylor Swift. D.H. Lord says, taking that dark triad test. All right. Careful. Hopefully you're not evil. Eli Cook says, hey, bro, just found your channel today. I love your content. I'm an ESTJ, and I always felt like an outcast in the world, but your videos on ESTJ personalities are so helpful. Thanks, man. Awesome. Very glad to hear that. Now go watch all my other stuff that's better than my Myers-Briggs stuff, like my 69 Pillars of Success. And then join the 52 book challenge, and you'll get videos from me every single week that will literally change your life. Even more so than what it sounds like we've already done, which I'm very happy to hear. Thank you for watching. A3 person says, I mean, you answered the question, so yay. Oh, sweet. Austin Williams says, is there any way I could help him realize this is a crutch on his life that is constantly holding him back from being the best he can be? Yeah, so if he's using it as a crutch, you have to understand that that's probably a defense mechanism because he's afraid of failure. And so he's using this, oh, but I have this disability. And it's really reframing, my son is dyslexic. And what I tell him is it's not a disability, homie. Your brain's just wired a little bit differently. So you have to give your brain information in a way that's different than other people. Problem solved, right? And so when you know how to communicate with him, I know how to educate my son. My son can name every move that's a jutsu on Naruto, right? But if I ask him to name the 50 states, he's like, I don't know. Why? Because in school, he's learning rote memorization. In Naruto, he's getting the information presented in a story that his brain can connect with. So it's really about just people have to see a disability as an opportunity to win even bigger. Like, I would argue that being dyslexic, for example, would help you as an entrepreneur. It won't necessarily help you, like, if you're one area where being dyslexic, I imagine, would hurt you is if you were like a paralegal that had to read and copy legal documents all day, because you would go insane. But I think dyslexia can definitely have a correlation with being successful at being an entrepreneur, because the way you think and the way you process information is somewhat counterintuitive. Starting a business is counterintuitive. It doesn't work like anything else in the world. That's why most people don't succeed at it, because they grew up in a school system that taught them how to succeed in school. What works in school does not work in business, right? It just doesn't. And that's why, schools are just now even learning how to have entrepreneurship programs. Back in the day when you went to business school, you were learning how to become a manager so you could go work at GE, not how to start a business, right? So there's just, it's about finding what this person's actually good at, because they may honestly be doing something they're not good at, and then they just fall back on, well, I'm dyslexic, please don't kill me. But if you get them, find something that this person's really good at and show it to them, like, name something you're amazing at. Well, how come your dyslexia doesn't affect you there? Because he didn't have to use it as a crutch, because he's in his zone. So I'd say if it's a work issue, try finding work that he's actually wired to be good at. And if he's an ENTJ, if you got him working doing like spreadsheets and accounting, he's probably going to want to jump off the building. So he may want to work on what he's actually working on. A3 says, the second part was just an idea I heard Jordan Peterson said about having the ability to become a monster, but choosing not to is a good way to not let other people. Yes, that makes way more sense. Got it. Yeah, we all have the capacity to become a monster. With enough conditioning, anybody can do it, believe me. Some people are just further down that line being a psychopath. Some people need to be conditioned and some people don't. But believe me, with enough conditioning, you can make anybody do pretty much anything if you put them under the right duress and circumstances. Infinite Jurisdiction says, are you going to do the live conference you talked about? Brian Rigney says, good night. Stay cool. Good night, Brian. Yes, actually, my business partner and I are trying to figure out. We are almost definitely going to do one in San Diego in the weekend of the Super Bowl in 2019. We're trying to figure out how we do one here on the East Coast in 2018. So yes, absolutely going to do it. We're just trying to figure out what are we actually going to coach on. We've run through a couple different ideas, relationship building, career building. We're trying to hone that down and then trying to work through, okay, once we have the specific thing we're going to do our 4 to 6 hour coaching session on, how we're going to market it, who we're going to sell it to and stuff like that. You know, how big we want the event to be. Like, do we want to go to a place that'll let us have 1,000 people show up, or do we want to just keep it like to 100 and then only let a small percentage of people come? So yes, it's going to happen. Just don't know exactly when yet. All right. Sitali said something and then their message disappeared. Chow Hyun Tron says, hey, from Germany, you are a blessing to this world. Keeping up this wonderful work. Hey, man, thank you. It's a blessing to hear that. Ursula says, my ADHD brain learned to run equipment by my boss drawing pictures in the dirt. Sweet. As verbal did not make sense. Going back to managing oneself. Some people don't learn audibly. They learn by doing. They learn by talking, right? Or they learn by writing. Find teachers who can be creative in explaining. Yeah, and find teachers, just find someone who's willing to put things in terms that your unique brain can digest, right? Like, I'm a person who thinks and learns through talking. You know, my going through the therapy for my disability, you know, the doctor was like, you clearly think out loud. You literally, when you're talking, that is you thinking. It's 100% true. I'm thinking using words, right? Because I know that about myself. I put myself in situations where I'm constantly talking, which forces me to face what I'm thinking. And then I get better and more refined in the things that I think, and I mature the idea, and then I'm able to share it with other people. Preston the God says, hi, can you shout out my best friend Ice Wallow? Oh, come on, man. We got to be better than that, homie. We got to be better than that, Chief. Got to be better than that, man. We got to be. So that person probably scored high on being a psychopath on the Dark Triad test. So we had to boot him. Austin Williams says, yes, he is fantastic at building and wants to start his own business. There you go. He has told me that he isn't sure if he can make it a successful career. Thank you. Let's see. So yeah, of course he doesn't know if he can make it successful. He's got to work at it. He's got to be willing to put in the work. What did the kids make as gifts? Hold on. I got to take care of some foolishness, everybody. So now these people will not show up on the channel anymore, ever. All right, so just word to the wise. I know for my regulars, I don't really need to talk about this. But when people come on my live streams or anything that I'm doing on the internet, I don't care about making friends. So if you come in here and it's joke time, like if you're going to say something offensive or try to get people to say something stupid or try to spoil a movie, like you're just banned. Like you will not show up ever again on the channel, right? It's just not going to happen. Like I think life's too short to play games with people, and most of the people that know me really well know that I am totally cool with pissing somebody off if I think it's the right thing to do, right? And if it's about adding value to the people that actually come here to hear what I have to say. And I'm just giving a fair warning to anyone else that's watching that thinks it's cute to try to have a little joke time and try to get people to say stuff on these calls. because this is not about like stupid this isn't typical YouTube. Let me be stupid for an hour and try to entertain people. I'm actually working to try to impact people's lives and change lives. So if that's not the game you're playing, there's PewDiePie, there's a bunch of other people's channels you can go do that little childish humor stuff with. Here, you're just banned, right? And if you make a whole bunch of accounts, I'm just gonna report you, like for real. Like I am here to add value. I don't have time to even put up with. I'm okay with like if I never hear from you again, never see your face again. Right? So, just fair warning to anyone here that thinks that type of stuff's funny. You're in the wrong place. All right, Jeffrey says, I have trouble going to sleep. Okay. Lena says, what do you do for energy? I get drained pretty quickly and can focus on my work, but it's hard to produce because that energy is lacking. I eat healthy, but do you have any advice for this? So there's a couple different things. Eating was going to be my first question. You're eating healthy, but are you eating the right things, right, to keep you in the game? Are you getting enough fat in your diet? A lot of people, when they say they eat healthy, means they cut out a bunch of stuff, right? And fat is part of the brain's food, right? So are you producing enough glycogen in the brain? Because that's really where your mental energy, that's the energy that the brain burns, right? So eating healthy is one thing, but are you eating the right foods? Okay, that's one. Two, are you resting enough? Three, and probably most importantly, like, how do I get my energy? If you told me on 2 hours of sleep that I had to get up and I had to be on stage and I had to coach for 8 hours straight, working with people and changing lives, I'd be as energetic as I am right now, ready to rock, because that's what I live to do. Now, I might be tired through it, but I wouldn't have to generate the energy because I'm in my zone. I'm in what I'm supposed to be doing, right? When I get tired is usually if I'm working on something I don't want to be working on. Sometimes that happens when you're doing kind of the mundane parts of your work, like when I have to do my accounting, I get tired. But when I'm doing my day-to-day work, which is coaching and working with people, it's just I have a high motor and I'm very energetic. I would say, are you doing the right things? Like, is the work that you're doing the work that makes your heart come alive? Because somehow I just find the energy even if I'm dead tired. Like, I've literally had coaching calls that went from, I think, 10 o'clock at night to I ended with the last person 6 a.m. the next morning. Like, the sun was up by the time I was finished talking. And we were just rolling. So those are the things that I would think through. But diet, absolutely. Make sure you're getting enough rest. But think about, take an inventory of when you're actually tired. Are you tired when you're doing the stuff that's in your heart that makes your heart come alive, or are you tired when you're doing the tedious stuff? And then really just question whether or not you're in the right zone, if you're doing the right work. Let's see. Chow says, Bryant, how long did it take you to overcome your own insecurities? Because I'm also an ENTJ. When I overcome them all, I'll let you know. Still, I am a work in progress, homie. But if I can read between the lines a little bit, I think what you're really asking me is, how did I get to the point where my insecurities didn't stop me anymore? And it's learning how to do it afraid. When I went into firefights in war, I was scared every time, but it's what had to be done to keep my men safe. Right? I couldn't just be like, oh, I'm scared today, I don't want to go do it. No, I had to do it because that's what I was being called upon to do. I would say that when my insecurities no longer stopped me from doing the work, were when I wanted it bad enough to be embarrassed and to be vulnerable and to be insecure and to not fear failure anymore. Like, I wanted it bad enough to suck at it. I wanted what I'm doing now bad enough to do it even though I knew it might not work. It's desire overcomes insecurity. Desire overcomes lack of motivation. Desire overcomes laziness. Desire overcomes all of those things that we put other labels on. It really comes down to how bad do you want it. Because if you want something, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're insecure about talking to people, let's say, you're an ENTJ, it's probably not the case, but let's just say you get social anxiety when you talk to people. If you were starving, you had 10 minutes to live, and you had to go borrow $5 to get something to eat, you'd talk to every person. Why? Because your desire to not die is greater than your desire to avoid the social anxiety. So when you want something just as bad or more than the thing you fear, this will win. All right. Javier Hernandez says, how's it going? Shout out from Los Angeles. Man, it's amazing. Good to see you out there from the West Coast. Jeffrey says, is there any way to divert stressful thoughts at night, like meditation or therapy? Yes. And those are two very good ways. Right? Also, one of the other things I find with people, there's ancient scripture that says we have to renew our minds daily to the mind of Christ. And what that really is the godlike way of thinking, which is all things work together for good. We were put on this earth to be fruitful and multiply, like all these good things, right, are the way God thinks about prosperity and blessing us. And, yeah, bad stuff happens on the earth, but that's the humans doing that. But whether you believe in God or not, it's not the point. It's this idea that we have to it says to cast down every thought that stands against those truths, right? And what people think is, oh, I got to get rid of these thoughts in my mind. I got to but they're in there, right? But the part they miss is you got to replace them with something. Like, you don't just get a thought and throw it out of your mind. You get a better thought and replace it so that it no longer... Think of your mind like a hard drive, right? If you know anything about computers, you know that hard drives, right, are like shelves in a dresser. You open it up, you stick something in there. Here's a cool thing you may not know about how hard drives work, at least the old school ones, right? Before solid state, because it may be a little bit different with solid state drives. But picture a hard drive as you pull open a drawer, you put something in the drawer, you close it. Now it's stored in the hard drive. Here's a cool thing. When you delete that thing, right? Most people think you take it out of the drawer and you throw it away. Wrong. When you delete something from a hard drive, all the hard drive is saying, the data is still there. What the hard drive is saying, as long as there's more free space, is let's no longer associate with that thing being here. Right? Let's just no longer associate with it. So the space that data is taking up is now showing as empty space, but it's not. It's not until those sectors, those drawers of the hard drive are filled with new things that thing you deleted actually completely disappears. This is why with older computers, you could use a function in the old DOS prompt, and I know I'm getting way nerdy, called undelete. Like if you deleted something from your computer, you could go undelete it because it could go find the files, piece them back together, and hand it to you. Your brain is like, the hard drives are modeled after our brains. Humans were not that original, right? You don't just take the thought, throw it away. You have to replace it with something better. Why do you guys think I talk about reading books so much? Because if I get people's ideas in my head that are better than my ideas, their ideas are the ones that are going to prevail. The ones that you spend the most time with. So not only do you have to replace the thought, then you have to spend time, like you said, meditating on that better thought. Like here's one. If you go around saying, oh, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke, stop saying that. Saying I'm overcoming a cash flow problem. I'm overcoming a cash flow problem. What's the difference between those two thoughts? Both of them still center around the lack of money, perspective. The first one focuses on what you don't have. The second thought focuses on what you are doing to overcome what you don't have and get what you do want. Right? That, my friends, is how you take thoughts captive. Why don't they teach this in school? Like, that wasn't that complicated. But no one ever taught me that. I had to figure that out myself by reading the Bible for 15 years. Why didn't somebody teach us that? All right. Have you read the book Grit by Angela Duckworth? Review, if so, please. I ordered it from our library. I have not. Belinda Jennings says, how do you know what you desire? Because when you have it, it makes you feel good. And when you don't, it makes you feel bad. Jeffrey says, thanks for your INFP videos, are very inspiring, and I can relate to them 100%. Sweet. Infinite Jurisdiction says, that's a great point. Nature abhors a vacuum. Well said. I like that. Sister Hipster says, ha, Romans 12:2 is my mantra for my name. There you go. There you go. Amen to that, sister. Chow says, thanks for your insights. God bless you and your family. I got to go to my morning workout. See you next time. Oh, yeah, I forgot. You're in Germany, so it's, wow. Dude, you're up at 4:30. You're a gangster. Nicely done. Have a good workout. Have a great day. Much love to you. Stay strong. Okay, who else has questions? Who else has the questions? Let's see. Lena says, I realize that I have nothing to say. This isn't for lack of life experience, and I'm passionate about creating stories. That's it. How do I open up that part of myself that talks? Wow, yeah, so you're passionate about creating stories. Let me answer by asking you a question, Lena. How do I open up that part of myself that talks? And I'm glad you actually chose the word talks. When you like to create stories, do you like writing? Do you like telling stories, like talking them out? How do you like to create? And second question, which thing are you doing when you start to experience the fatigue in your story creation? Jeffrey says, I create stories by getting uncomfortable. It's a good way to come up with a story. So I'll wait on Lena to answer those questions. While we're doing that, anybody else? Mr. Human Man says, my stepdad is a negative force in my life. I've struggled to stay happy around him. He can get into certain moods where he is grumpy, and it's like a cloud in the house. How do I deal with this? Well, first of all, you have to stop basing your happiness and your joy on his. You got to separate the two. You have to be able to find joy despite whether or not you're, like, if your happiness depends upon other people in the world behaving the way you want them to behave, just plan to never be happy. You've got to find happiness and peace and serenity in things that are within your control. Like, did you behave well today? Did you bring joy to somebody? Did you not get into the doldrums and the clouds? And yes, someone can be an energy suck when they're around you all the time and they're always negative, but you don't have to allow their negativity to become your negativity. And that's where we usually struggle, especially when we're close to people, right? I remember one time in my career, I was working around people who were fearful all the time, and I'm not a fearful person, but they were just sucking the life out of me. It's like, you know what? I can't allow their fear about everything to be my fear. They just had to be scared. I'm just going to come in and laugh, and we're going to have a ball, and they'll just be miserable. Like, I want to interact with him, but I'm not sure if I should when he is an energy. So yeah, sometimes you might have to not. Let's see. Mr. Human, totally relate. I know it seems never ending right now, but you will understand each other one day. Lena says, I write stories, and when I experience fatigue, it's just when I'm talking to people. Got it? I never know what to say to explain myself. My mind is blank most of the time. I feel pretty dumb because of it. My ideas are mainly image-based, and that's hard to communicate 100%. So first of all, Lena, please. First of all, everything you've said here tonight is completely coherent. So, but you're also writing, I guess, and not talking. But let's completely destroy the idea of you being dumb. Can we never say that again? Can we never? And I respect that that's how you feel. I do. I empathize with it, but I want to crush that. I want to get rid of this feeling dumb, because that feeling of dumbness is rooted in no part of the truth. It's rooted in fear of rejection, okay? Because you feel as though people won't be able to relate to you because you don't necessarily know how to communicate with them. Please believe me when I tell you that people who actually give a crap about you are going to find a way to communicate with you that works for both of you. It's not a one-way street. That's a two-way street. Okay, so you need to get around people who have some empathy and can let you communicate the way that works for you. And what if that's writing them notes? What if you're better at writing? So glad that you said this. Chances are you have a lot of introverted energy, right? And exercising your extrovertedness takes a lot more energy than other people, which is probably why you're an amazing writer. Okay, so first of all, keep writing. No one said you had to tell your stories to anybody. Just write them and hand them. Right? Like if you're going to write books, or you're going to write blogs, or you're going to write for TV shows or anime, I don't know what you're writing for, but just keep writing, because the writing and that solitude is going to give you energy, and you need to be in that place. And when you do need to interact with people, just make sure you're around good people who you don't have. My wife all the time struggles to find the words to express herself. Why? Because she expresses from the heart. You got to remember, your heart has a brain too, friends. Right? This thing beats by itself. The heart has intelligence, and it communicates in a very different way than the head does. People like me that communicate with the head, it's why we're articulate. And people are like, oh, he's so well spoken, and blah, because I live up here. But to reach somebody here takes a whole different skill set. And you have to be able to speak from the heart. And sometimes what comes out of here doesn't make sense coming out of here. So you have to have someone that's willing to hear with their heart, right? My wife says, I just feel down today and I don't have the words to express it. I then start to look at the environment. What are the things that are going on around her? The kids have been beating the crap out of her all day. The room is a mess, right? Clean the room, do the dishes for her, get the kids out of the house. All of a sudden, mommy's mood immediately shoots up. She couldn't articulate any of that. But a person with empathy, that she taught me, because I suck at it. She taught me how to do this, right? That's why we're a good match. Person who now understands empathy can immediately just make all those other things happen without having to be told in a way that makes sense. Get around people that have a ton of empathy and can learn to hear the heart. You need that. And then but for real, anybody's making, well, nobody makes you feel dumb. That's us that do it to ourselves. Kill that. Don't even speak that ever again, because you're not dumb. You wouldn't be up at 11 o'clock at night listening to some dude try to change the world from YouTube if you were dumb. And if you are, then I am too. So we're in the bed, we're in this together. So we'll just be friends and it'll be fine. Cool. Mr. Human Man says, thank you. By the way, your videos are great, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. That's what we do, man. Thank you. Ursula says, would you and your wife be willing to do a video about what it's like to be in a relationship with an entrepreneur and the challenges it presents as a couple? Or is this a non-productive idea? I wouldn't say it's non-productive, but you have to understand my wife's an entrepreneur too. So I think a more accurate video is, what is it like to be in a relationship with a guy who thinks he's the next Alexander the Great and who works way harder than he should most of the time, trying to change the world for so many people who don't want it to change. That's exhausting. D.H. Lord says, I am awful at showing compassion towards anyone. I don't think that's true. I think the simple fact that you can admit that means that it's not entirely true. Jeffrey says, I wish I could connect to someone on an intellectual, empathetic level too. Cool. I don't know if we lost Lena, but hopefully something I said in there had some value for her. All right. So let's go ahead and do last call, friends. It's late. It's Sunday. I know a lot of you probably have to work tomorrow. I do have some business meetings tomorrow, but I get to sleep in. So I need to respect y'all's time as much as I would have you respect mine. Let's do last call for questions, and then we'll ride off into the sunset. Yeah, so I don't think that's such a bad idea, Ursula. I think that could work. It's getting my wife to come on camera with me that's the challenging part. Lena, thank you for your help. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad I caught this. I'm wondering, what's your wife's strategies for getting things done as an entrepreneur? Well, right now, her entrepreneurism is on hold because we have 4 kids, and she decided to kind of take a back seat for me to focus on my section of the business. And she kind of took a back seat to focus full-time on the kids. In the meantime, she is actually studying to get her law degree. That's kind of what she's focused on right now, is more on the education side than the entrepreneurial side. But in terms of getting things done, when you have 4 small children, you plan, and then your plan goes to crap, and you just try to survive every day. It's with kids, it's like Groundhog Day. They're gonna wake up, they're gonna be loud, they're gonna wake up the baby, which means one of us is gonna have to get up with the baby, change a diaper, someone's gonna spill something, they're gonna destroy the house by 4 p.m., which we're gonna have them clean. The baby will then come and we'll have re-destroyed the house by 6 p.m. By that time we wanna have dinner, we all clean up the house and then go to bed. And that repeats itself over and over and over again. Every day. You know, and I try to find a number of hours to do my business work, which usually means I have to leave the house. I have to leave my home office, except on days when the kids go to school, because then I can work in my home office somewhat undisturbed. Like I just filmed a number of videos for one of my free programs today, and you can hear my kids all throughout it. Like I just got to the point where I tell my clients, I tell customers, you're going to hear my kids. Like just get over it. That's not cool, then go buy someone else's program. It's just my reality. Cool, cool. Lena says, haha, okay, that makes sense. And on that note, friends, let me thank you for stopping by tonight. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, or all the soon-to-be or would-be or one day will-be mothers. Happy Mother's Day in advance. But hopefully not before you're ready to be a mother. Let me make that clear. It's always a pleasure to serve each and every one of you. Pray that somebody somewhere got something great out of this live, and somebody after the fact will get something out of it after the fact. It's an honor to serve. I love you all very much. Remember that we are always together, stronger than any of us could ever be alone. I will see you all on the next one. Have a great night.